Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first of the NORA webcast series after the NORA Awards, which were on the 10th of November. Goodness me, we're already 2 weeks beyond that. Who can imagine? Thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. The NORA webcast series in the run-up to the awards at the beginning of November, we mostly featured organisations who were involved with the NORAs as sponsors or former winners and Academy members. What we're going to be doing now is a special series where we're going to be speaking to each of the NORA winners from the 10th of November. Each of them has their own story, their own tale to tell, if you like, in how they got to become award worthy. Every site that was shortlisted as a finalist is a huge achievement to be able to do so, but to be selected as the NORA Award winners this year is particularly special. And what we want to do is have a peek behind the curtains. We want to understand what went into making those sites award worthy and why they should be held up as an example of best practice and excellence in online recruitment. So my very, very special guest today is Jess Brooker. Jess is from The Guardian, and The Guardian are multiple winners of the I'm just switching Jess's video on here. The Guardian are multiple winners of the NORAs over the years. Let's welcome Jess to the screen. Good afternoon, Jess. How are you?
Hi. Yeah, very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. Thanks for joining me, and thanks for being the first in the series of our NORA winners series. So we're hoping to have each of the winners on their own dedicated show between now and Christmas. I think there's one that we're not going to be able to squeeze in, but you're the first. And I think really importantly as well that the Guardian being the first guest in this series reflects that The Guardian is a long-established organisation. How old is The Guardian altogether as a newspaper?
Oh, you're really going to challenge me now. No, I do actually know. It's 200 years old.
Wow. So we have a 200-year-old winner of the NORAs and at the cutting edge of online recruitment technology. So in the history of the organisation, I would imagine from the very earliest days of The Guardian, I remember, the old front pages of newspapers then. Job adverts would be a feature where people were looking for staff of all types, and of course, that was pretty much the same up until the mid-90s, the mid-late 90s, where job boards came in and revolutionised the way that people advertise jobs. Within The Guardian, how conscious are people of the history of job advertising, those kind of classified adverts?
I think very, especially in regards to our sort of specialty sectors. I'm sure anyone that's worked in sort of media beyond 5 years ago remembers the media day where all the media jobs were in and so on and so forth. So we'd have teacher jobs on a Thursday, and it was very specific. And there's still a little bit of that heritage now. In print, certainly.
Yeah. So as I say, the print advertising of vacancies was the rule of thumb worldwide. Anyone who wanted to advertise a job, that's where you would go and post it for the world to see. And anyone who wanted a job, they would find the newspaper, be it national or local, or even trade magazines that particularly catered to their needs and the type of jobs that there would be. So before we get into that, can you give me a bit of a background to the Guardian Jobs website and your involvement with The Guardian yourself?
Yeah, of course. So we went online, I think we were one of the first newspapers to do so. Yeah. In regards to online recruitment advertising, and we've certainly changed a lot over time. I've used the Wayback Machine to see what it looked like 15 years ago or so. It's very different, and certainly the way that we sort of approach it, it's far more values driven than it used to be, and so on and so forth. But I joined The Guardians almost 7 years ago, and I mainly worked within the sort of customer success area. With clients, and then the product space in the last 2 years. So we're very exciting.
Yeah. So as I was saying, the the switch to going back, newspapers very much own the job advertising market, and each newspaper has their own, or did have their own, demographic as to who their audience was. People will often talk about the demographic of your Guardian reader, or your Telegraph reader, or your Daily Mirror reader, and so on. To what extent does that inform the career section? Is it the same audience? Is it a different audience altogether, or is there a crisscross?
It's kind of a bit of both. We do find that the areas that you'd expect to advertise in the Guardian newspaper as a whole is generally where we find that the majority of our sort of employers come from: social care, healthcare, a lot of teaching roles, and local government. However, we are careful not to limit ourselves to that demographic. So especially in like going to market for candidates and making sure that we're appearing in a multitude of places, we don't limit ourselves. But by we also are, you have to harness the power of the Guardian and what it can bring in just making our site what it is, and the audience and how we can sort of use that. And we use it, but we don't limit ourselves. There's certainly a crisscross, and a lot of our users are Guardian readers.
So what would you say is the key thing that makes the Guardian distinctive from your regular job boards out there? The traditional job boards that people mainly think of, such as Monster, JobSite, Total Jobs, and so on.
It's definitely having the Guardian newspaper, because using that, we can see people's experiences outside of, direct job seeking, and like what they're interested in, what their values are. And with that, match them to the right people. Like we do a lot of environmental job advertising, and we show those job adverts to people that are engaged in that content. So you can do a lot more values matching than you can with a traditional job board. And it also allows recruiters to find people that are not necessarily uploading their CV every day and active. So it ends up sort of benefiting everyone, really.
So with the Guardian, it's a news publication, has a wide range of content that can be shared with people. People are coming not only to see the news, but to find jobs, not only to find jobs, but to see the news. So there's a crossover there. When people are coming to the Guardian jobs and the Guardian's career section, do you see a breakdown in behaviours between people who are looking for career advice and information on the job sector that they're working in, or specifically going to find jobs and jobs alone?
A real mixture, and we do try to integrate it. So we like to feature our jobs alongside like sector related news, and so on and so forth, because I think there's an importance of being more than just a listings board, and creating that sort of engagement with your users. So a real mixture. You get the traditional job seekers that come on, apply for a job and leave, and then you get the traditional people that are looking for how to write their own CV and then they leave. But we certainly try to create a rich environment as much as we can.
I know that it's the case with any job board or any recruitment website that advertises vacancies, that you treat every page as a landing page, because people can be coming to through Google. They could be landing on a particular job or a blog talking about a particular industry sector and so on. But I imagine that's more nuanced with your site, where there's so much more history of the site going on. Even as a job board, the careers advice that you'll have is the depth of it is very mature information. So there'll be content going back decades even. Some of which will be,
otherwise you end up saying something that's not true anymore.
Well, I was going to say some of which will be totally up to date and topical, and others you would think maybe having the data on the top reminds people that this was news in 2008, for example.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You see some. We certainly have taken down content that's not relevant anymore, especially with a market that's changing so much in behaviours, especially over the last 2 years. You don't need to be telling someone how to go to the office and how to commute at 8 a.m. It's not relevant anymore. So yes,
articles on what women should wear to work are pretty passé these days.
They need to be taken down. Exactly.
Yeah,
we're conscious of that, let's just say, and we do try to sort of push content as much as possible to make sure it's up to.
So you touched on the last 2 years. These have been dramatically different times, unpredictable, and no one could have guessed how it would unfold. In fact, no one can guess now how it's going to unfold. So pay attention. It's all going to change tomorrow. But how has the Guardian or Guardian Jobs evolved in the past 18 months of the pandemic, or 20 months?
Massively. Certainly last year, everyone was in such shock with what was going on. So we tried to respond to it sort of in the only way we knew how at the time. So we did like 5 months of free NHS advertising and teachers and sort of certainly our big environmental push. So we were just kind of, it was a very strange world because the commercial organisations weren't really hiring, and then the public organisations were so stretched and pushed. So it was an odd dynamic. So we certainly see, and then you'd see sort of arts completely stopped hiring and all sorts of areas like that. So it was very strange. But the main sort of stuff we did in regards to updating the site was around people were looking for different things. They wanted to know if they could work from home. They wanted to know if they had flexibility with their childcare. So we updated just to make sure that people could search by that and people could advertise by that, and so you can find that match. People aren't leaving for an extra, $2,000 anymore. They're leaving if they can be home to, if they can be home early in the evening and not be out of the house while it's light. So a big part of it is pivoting towards that. One
of the things that is rarely touched upon, but it's a factor in the working from home, is that so many more people are more likely to have someone at home who's not well. So someone who's going through, or they might just be isolating. But the idea of going out to go to work, to commute somewhere and come back, even if that were possible, it can't be done. And if you're looking for work, then the working from home is much more a necessity than ever before. It's not a choice. It's a necessity. So it's true that the candidates can be searching for vacancies that say you can be working from anywhere. So the location is not the biggest feature on the job searches.
No. So we noticed that because we always try and just monitor what people are looking for and put our efforts in there. So we noticed people kept just searching with the word remote. So we put a toggle on, so you can now say like part remote, fully remote, and it just allows people to sort of match that and not waste their time, because no one wants that, and it's not best for anyone, really.
Are there other areas that you've seen in candidate behaviour that tells you how the job landscape is changing, where people are either not changing jobs in one sector or rapidly changing jobs in others, or moving from the cities out to the country, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I see it far more in it's. There are certainly less roles that are not primarily in the larger cities, but also it's so candidate driven now. And people aren't limited to where they live, to where they can apply jobs. It certainly benefits employer and sort of job seeker, because employers can have increased tenfold their candidate potential applicant pool, and applicants have done it the other way around. So, I mean, we've seen huge departures from certain industries and huge influxes of others, but it's certainly a candidate-driven market. Candidates are, can ask for more and can get more, I would say.
I've wanted to see for a long time the ability for candidates to assert themselves and push back, if you like, because in any application process in days gone by, candidates would be asked to jump through all sorts of hoops. And if you wanted the job, then you would just accept that's what you do. And now that candidates are able to push back a little bit more, it's not so much that they're telling employers we don't want to do that. They're just not applying, or they're stopping partway through the application process. So the smoothness and the ease of the application process has to be much more candidate focused. I wonder if also making sure that where agencies are advertising, making sure that the employer's name is mentioned on the job adverts is more of a feature now, because that's one of those bumps in the road that often means that candidates drop out of the process.
Turns out you hated that organisation, yeah. I see what you mean. We intentionally don't have a login wall, so you don't have to log in to apply. It mirrors The Guardian. The Guardian don't have a paywall, so we couldn't really have a login wall. It wouldn't really be match the values of the organisation overall. So we have that, and we maintain that that's best. I mean, people can have their profiles and use those to apply, but they don't need to. Lots of our recruitment partners like to base all their recruitment on their own site anyway, so we allow click-outs to that. We certainly do. We certainly do have consultancies, not including their client's name, but I'm sure you're right in the sense of that there might be less and less patience with that from applicants' side. It's interesting because you were saying that you wanted to see candidates be able to push back, and it's certainly not about salary as much anymore. It's a multitude of things. I want to work 3 days a week, and I want to do job shares, and what I'd like to do is work more and more towards sort of a space. We're doing work on it at the moment, but work more and more towards a space where people can search for all of these conditions when they're looking for their job, and no one wastes their time, and you know that this person wants to work that, and the applicant knows that organisation offers that. So that's what I'm working towards in my dream world.
Alongside those abilities to post jobs with those features and candidates searching for them, at the same time during the pandemic, we've seen a much faster acceleration of either the service for the provision for people from more diverse backgrounds, and it might be that someone has a lack of ability in some areas, mobility-wise, or it might be that they're coming from a different cultural background, and being able to reassure candidates or let them know the profile of this organisation that's advertising is somewhere where they would be welcomed and feel at home and respected. Is that something that you encourage or coach your advertisers on doing, or are they doing that for themselves and seeing the results?
100%. And actually a recent development that we're doing at the moment is we're updating our job profile pages so that they can toggle between the recruiter page and the company profile, so that companies can really showcase their values and people, and it's much richer sort of experience. We're very careful with what goes onto the site in regards to content. That's very carefully monitored. So we certainly, in what we can do to promote a company's values and stop anything that we wouldn't want on the site, we do as much as we possibly can.
That's really refreshing to hear, because and not to point fingers at our other job boards, the vast bulk of the content on your site is written by people who are not working for The Guardian, and they of course can write anything that they want and post it on any other job board, and for the most part the only barrier to putting that content onto any job board is the cost of advertising the job. So what you're saying is that you're vetting or you're at least having a watchful eye over the content that goes on, because that in itself could represent the Guardian's values, and you'd want to make sure that was aligned. We don't want to support that kind of that some certain language and tone. So everything's filtered, which is certainly an effort on our part, but it's important, and it's very important to The Guardian's brand overall. So we'll stay close to that. Yeah. So in what way did the pandemic affect the number of vacancies, live vacancies being advertised? We know that all job boards had a dip, and then there's been a rise, and right now things are extremely busy. But how did that manifest on The Guardian?
It was completely sector based. So last year, everything saw a drop apart from healthcare and teaching, and things like that. We've seen a recovery in all areas, especially arts. It's been lovely to see that.
That's cool.
But the thing I noticed the most is that having worked in sort of the recruitment advertising space for so long, there's a cyclical nature of it. The months where everyone hires, and the months where they don't, and that was completely abandoned. So you can't predict anything anymore. People kept advertising in August, and they're still advertising in December, and so it's become unpredictable. We're getting a little bit more balance back, but it's certainly difficult to predict in all areas of our lives, including recruitment advertising, apparently.
That is interesting. So the seasonality of a lot of job advertising has gone or changed.
Yes. The tip. I think it will start to settle, but certainly the classic August dip where everyone goes on holiday didn't happen, and the sort of the autumn huge spike didn't happen because it was already high. So that there's almost less. It's less aggressive. The ebbs and flows. It's much more consistent and not what we're used to.
Yeah. So the cyclical nature of recruitment has been smoothed out by
I think so.
all these other changes in the marketplace.
I think so. Yeah.
So that, I know that traditionally, as you say, there'd be that gap in August where nothing is advertised or very little, and of course, graduate recruitment, is a big swing in the year where either people are coming out and looking for jobs, or because of the nature of graduating, say 2 years ago and doing 2 years traineeship, say with a law firm or with an accountancy firm or whatever, then that pattern of months in the year tends to be reflected in the job market as well. So you can see that from August to August, January to January, the same patterns emerge. And what we've all seen is that far fewer candidates are applying for jobs than before. You have to do much more to get the attention of candidates. In what ways on The Guardian can people get the attention and prompt a response that they otherwise wouldn't be getting?
We focus quite a lot on targeting candidates which are not on the job board at that time. So we do a lot of display advertising. And another thing that we've noticed is certainly a flip towards that. People need to go out and get those candidates. And you can do sort of show your advert next to content that's relevant. And it's certainly, you need to go and get them. It's something that The Guardian has always done, but it's become increasingly more popular as people understand that.
So display ads can be shown alongside editorial content on The Guardian, and candidates in those sectors who might be passive candidates, not even thinking of looking for jobs elsewhere, can be prompted to find out more. Yeah, exactly. And so you can. The environmental jobs are a key one, because if someone's looking for a carbon neutral project manager, you want to be speaking to people that are engaged in that content. They're probably going to be somewhat relevant if they've also sort of looked at project manager roles in the past and things. So you can gather things from what people are interested in, and then show it to them while they're reading it. With COP26 in Glasgow in the past month, did you see a surge in those types of vacancies or those types of requirements?
Yes, we did, but it was not even compared to the increase in engagement and content about it. That really so recruitment followed, but recruitment's usually a little bit behind other things. But there was a lot of engagement in the content. So I can definitely imagine that plenty of candidates out there who may have had a vague idea that they'd like to work in the environmental sector would be more conscious of it and more active in terms of, well, A, finding out about the sector more, and B, looking at vacancies in that sector if they could get involved. We do a lot to promote that, and we also exposing that you can work for typical organisations, public organisations, commercial organisations in environmentally sort of focused roles. There's a lot of investment in the public sector over the next few years in this. So certainly we'd like to expose that as much as we can. I know that you
particularly within Guardian, the Guardian, you are working on the product itself and the behaviours of candidates responding to those, and designing features that will catch their attention and optimise their experience. Candidates are, like the rest of us, using a multitude of online services, whether it be eBay, Amazon, YouTube, and so on. And their experience of all of those sites informs what they expect when they come to your site.
Yeah.
So are there changes that in the candidates' behaviour that have made changes in how you deliver your service to them?
Yeah, I mean, you have to make sure everything's mobile friendly, don't you? That's a key one. Yes, definitely. Everything needs to be easy. Everything needs to be accessible, and especially when you're going after not necessarily an actively job hunting market where someone's at their laptop with their CV. You need to make sure that all that's really easy to engage with. I mean, we use lots of user technology, heat mapping, just to make sure that everything's accessible and usable. We're very careful about anything that we update. You can't. There's not much room for mistakes. So you have to be quite careful. As you said, people can be fickle as well. So you have to keep them.
Absolutely. Well, as we know, we mentioned at the start, The Guardian are multiple winners of this award for Best Consumer Publication. I have, it's actually the trophy of yours from last year, which will be sent in the post to you. You have the one from this year. Add that to the collection. I think The Guardian has 10 or 12 altogether, including this one here. So if there was anyone keeping records, I reckon The Guardian has more than anyone. Certainly from 2007 onwards, it's pretty much each year. Now, people often say to me, "Oh, it's the usual suspects who win in the NORAs every year," and I'm always very conscious that I wouldn't want that to be the case, unless they absolutely deserve it. In all of the other categories, the winners change, turn about every year, and sometimes companies who were winners last year aren't even finalists this year. But The Guardian appears again and again. The newspaper or consumer publication area where there are newspapers that are catering to candidates looking for jobs, that has evolved quite a bit. And some of the competitors out there are either not doing much, or they're giving career advice but not posting vacancies. In what way do you see the market evolving for newspapers generally, who would in the past have had active job sections?
It's shrunk, that area, massively.
Yeah.
Or newspapers that used to have them have now sold them on, like the Tess and so on. We're very fond of it, and we put a lot of love and attention into making sure it's new, and we follow the same trends as the job boards, and we follow so I think that we keep pace, which hopefully sort of is demonstrated by our pile of of awards by this point.
Your stack. Yeah.
It's shrinking, and you have to keep up. So I think there's become less and less room for maneuver. So if you don't keep up, there's no sort of forgiveness there, and I think that's probably what's happened with newspapers.
I think it also means that the Guardian, still standing, still pushing forward, still award winning, is much more visible, and candidates will be coming to the Guardian looking for information on industry sectors, looking for vacancies, looking to apply, and looking for something that they don't find on job boards. Not to denigrate job boards, but there's a different profile to the service that's offered by the Guardian, and there's a whole spread of different types of candidates out there, and what they're looking for can well be served by a well-informed newspaper-backed job board that has that wealth of information. Going forward, as a very long-established organisation with mountains of relevant data on the marketplace, not just in the online space, but that's the most relevant. How do you see the market developing in the next 3, 6, 12 months? And we didn't go any further forward than that, because who can tell?
I mean, who can tell for tomorrow, as you said earlier? I mean, I think that some seasonality will return, but I think less.
Mm-hmm.
I think there'll be a lot less sort of ebbs and flows. I think that we'll continue to move towards values job hunting, values-based jobs hunting.
Yeah.
And the advertisers will align to that. So I think it will be values-based. I think it will be a richer job hunt because people know what they want and they won't move for any less than that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it will be less cyclical, and I think it will be richer.
Yeah, yeah. I know that many employers that I've spoken with, they are right now, well, in the past year and a half, they've been rewriting their employer branding messaging because they need to describe themselves in different ways and describe what did they do in the pandemic. But going forward, many of them they're rewriting or redesigning the job functions themselves, because many job functions, if you're not working in an office or in a place where hundreds of other people are, if you're working from home in distributed locations, then the types of work that you can do or you should be doing is going to be quite different to what you would do when you were in an office. Not everyone has a shared, I'm going to say photocopy, but it's the wrong word, but shared access to different types of technologies when you're working from home. So everyone's doing things in different ways. So what that means is that the old job descriptions that you used to use to advertise vacancies, they're of no use anymore. You can't, well, first of all, some of the things you can't say, but the job itself, you can't describe it in that way. So you're going to have to write from scratch. This is what the job requires. This is the type of person we're looking for. This is the type of organization that we are. Please come and join us. Please consider, applying for us, and we'll tell you much more. And that, of course, has a knock-on effect with organizations like yourself, where if people want to see a response to their adverts, they're going to have to write far better, more engaging adverts, and give the candidates the "what's in it for me" reason to apply. And I suppose they'll be looking to you for guidance on that. Well, how do we become more persuasive? How do we become more engaging? How do we get candidates to apply when they're not, they're not otherwise applying?
Yeah, no, exactly. And this is kind of what I meant by where I want us to get to. I want people to, one, not be able to hide behind things and like a multitude of benefits. No, what are they? What is the flexibility and all that? And I think just exposing that, it's no one wants to waste their time.
In some ways, I'm really optimistic for the future for people who can enter the workplace who weren't doing so before. So people who were always looking for work from home. It might be returning mothers, it might be people with mobility issues, it might be people with different skills, which meant they could do some of a job, but not all of a job. Because they have different abilities, they are now able to apply for jobs that have been redesigned that now suit them in ways that weren't possible 100%. Before. So I think there's a bigger pool of skilled and available candidates that can be tapped into if employers can learn about them. And I think one of the important ways to learn about them is through organizations like yourself, where you're able to feedback what candidates are looking for, what they want, what they're responding to. And as I say, in the long run, maybe not immediately, because there's still a few bumps in the road to go, then we can be a much more evolved hiring workplace. So hopefully that's going to be the case. And hopefully the Guardian is going to be a big part of that. So I've just noticed the time. We've gone a little bit over time. Jess, can I say thank you very much for joining me today?
No worries.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Congratulations again on your umpteenth trophy win. I'll get this one.
We're going to need a bigger cabinet, aren't we?
I think so. You could probably make an igloo with them. That would.
It's certainly a small one at this point, but we'll keep growing.
Yeah, absolutely. So congratulations again. Thanks very much for joining me. Thank everyone who's watching either live on Crowdcast or on any of the social media channels that we're streaming out to, or of course if you're watching on replay. We will be back. I'm just going to double check. We have more shows lined up with other winners. Let me just double check. Next week we have on Tuesday the 30th Executive Career Jump, who were winners of Best Employment Advice website. Actually, that was a joint award alongside the BBC. So we hope to be lining up the BBC shortly as well. Also on Tuesday, we have Camino Partners, who are winners of Best Large Recruitment Agency. And I expect to be, actually, I know on the 1st of December, we have Morrison Jobs, which were Best National Recruitment Agency winners. So we will have more lined up. So please pay attention to any of the messages that we're sending out. Please come back and watch the other shows. And in the meantime, I'm going to say thank you very much, Jess. And thanks everyone who's watching, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.